time and maybe some miscommunications with the coaching staff, Bones Hyland is open to be traded, and the Denver Nuggets are definitely fielding offers. Doesn't sound like anything substantial has really came out yet. Just seems like they've been lowballed. But what are you giving the prospects of Bones Hyland being moved? And just before you answer that, context, he's still on a rookie deal, so he still looks pretty attractive. Still have 2 years left on that. But Bruce Brown has already declined his player option. Yeah. So they have to, if they want to keep him around, they have to find money. And I don't know that all this money can work when you have essentially 2 backup point guards. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on Bones Hyland getting moved?
I think it needs to happen. It's clear that he and Michael Malone don't always mesh. I think the Nuggets would like to see a bit more from Bones defensively than what he's shown. And the offense can be a bit inconsistent in terms of shot selection and production. So,
yeah,
he only played 5 minutes against the Pelicans on Tuesday night. And I think that's a telltale sign that he's on the outs there. Whether or not they move him, we'll see. But I think if they can get someone who can, I think the main thing is going to be freeing up money for Bruce Brown. It's quite obvious they really like him. He's going to be expensive in free agency this summer. So freeing up that money for a team that hasn't been one to really willingly go into the tax, I think that's going to be an objective for them. We've also seen Christian Braun kind of emergent here recently as well.
Yeah.
He gives them that defense and athleticism that they need on the wing. So I think Bones, if you have him rostered, you're either dropping him or you're hoping that he gets moved.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. There's supposedly the Denver Nuggets are looking for a defensive wing who isn't in this market. So that's the number one thing that all teams need right now. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I think it's crazy, actually. Bones is getting almost a 29% usage rate off the bench. So imagine him with like 30 minutes. I mean, that's fantasy. That's what you want to see in fantasy. But yeah, we'll see what the potential suitors are looking like. But I think you're right. That 5 minutes last night was certainly an indication that he's probably going to be moved, or the Nuggets are definitely going a different direction. Great news for Bruce Brown. He's getting 27% of his minutes, according to Basketball Reference, at point guard. So if he can play more those backup point guard minutes, I think you should see a little bit more of an assist spike from him too, and getting more minutes. So Mason Plumlee, one of the fantasy surprises of the year, just been absolutely on a tear, top 70 over the last month, double-doubles, assists, pretty much doing everything you want from a center. The Charlotte Hornets are in a situation where they have several veterans that are up for contract extensions. Sounds like they want to prioritize PJ Washington and Jalen McDaniels over Mason Plumlee, who's 33 years old. And then also Kelly Oubre. Both of those guys are on the block.
Yeah.
What are you doing with Mason Plumlee? Do you think there's a chance that he stays here? I don't see why they wouldn't trade him, because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Why not get at least some second-round picks for him? But right now they're asking for a first-round pick for Mason Plumlee, which is a bit rich. But yeah, what are you doing with Mason Plumlee for fantasy perspective?
I think even if he stays, he's in a tough spot fantasy-wise, just because Williams, you have Nick Richards, 2 young bigs that I think Charlotte's going to want to get a longer look at, or at least they should, just because that team's not going to be anywhere near the play-in tournament. So get all the time that you can get evaluating those young guys. I think that's going to be the priority for them. I don't know about getting a first-round pick for Mason Plumlee, but he's played well. He's improved his free throw shooting, which I think is translated to his overall increase in confidence offensively. So if you're a playoff team, you can get him as a backup center. That would be a really good pull for you. Like you mentioned, though, that asking price is a bit much.
Yeah, I think Dallas is a really intriguing fit there.
Yeah.
Depending on how long Christian Wood's going to be out. I mean, I think he definitely gives you more than Dwight Powell and I'd argue Maxi Kleber too. And JaVale McGee. I mean, I don't know. He barely even gets any minutes right now. So yeah, I think that I'm interested to see what his asking price eventually is. Kelly Oubre is always going to be a name I feel like is going to be on the trade block, similar to like John Collins. He's just one of those guys that, he can give you instant offense off the bench. But his price tag also might be a little bit high, just considering that he's coming off a wrist injury.
Yeah.
Don't really know the status of that. So curious to see what happens there. What's the latest on Jae Crowder? Do you think that, a deal's got to get done at some point. It sounds like the Milwaukee Bucks have the most competitive offer right now. Suns aren't really interested in Jordan Nwora and some second round picks, but feel like Grayson Allen's probably going to pop into into that trade consideration. But what are your thoughts on Crowder?
Yes, it was reported earlier in the week that they'd allowed him the opportunity to speak with the Bucks, kind of try to figure some things out there. Milwaukee's kind of got a surplus of wings, especially once Chris Middleton's able to take on his expected workload. So I'm assuming Milwaukee ends up being the destination. How we get there, I don't know. I don't know, but it feels like Miami's not going to happen. That was another like rumored destination earlier in the year.
I think that's a great fit just off of play style and but I don't know where they're at with that.
So your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. John Collins seems like he's still on the block. There hasn't been. It sounds like New Orleans has made some offers. Doesn't know. I don't really know where he's going to go or if he's going to go. I mean, this is the 4th season that he's been on the trade block. The Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young's been in and out of the lineup. DeJounte Murray's been going off, doing his thing. I think Bogdanovich has definitely cooled off after a hot start. So I don't know. Do you think that the Atlanta Hawks need a change here? Do you think moving John Collins is the move? And if they end up actually doing it, who does that benefit?
I think they do need to make this move. Like you said, he's been mentioned in trade rumors for how long now? At a certain point, you just have to move on. And also, they're going with that guard dominant attack where he can go long stretches without touching the basketball.
Great
in
point,
a spot where he can make something happen. So I think if you have Collins rostered, you're really hoping that the Hawks finally move him at the trade deadline. In terms of who it benefits, maybe a Jalen Johnson. I don't think you're going to rush out to add Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, or deep leagues, maybe.
Yeah, or maybe they try to play on Onyeka Okongwu next to Clint Capella. I don't think I would do it personally, but that might be their best bet without John Collins. Or you just go small. Bogdanovich would be a beneficiary. Maybe even AJ Griffin. We've seen him have some good moments when someone's been out. So, I think if anything, we're just hoping that John Collins finally gets traded.
Yeah. And the Bulls, Alex Caruso's been a hot name flying around NBA circles. And I just read that Lonzo Ball seems to still be experiencing pain in his knee. I think does that kind of change the Bulls' perspective on wanting to trade him? Because there's a very distinct chance that Lonzo Ball does not come back this season.
Yeah, I think it does. You're not going to get the distribution ability that Lonzo has, obviously. But if you move Alex Caruso, in addition to not getting Lonzo back, their perimeter defense will be in shambles. So I think you kind of have to hold on to Caruso for that reason if they're going to try to make a run for a play-in or a playoff spot. And when you have the top 3 that the Bulls have, I have a hard time believing that they would make a move that would kind of actively sabotage those efforts.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's also a pretty nice asking price, man. Caruso's really driven up his stock and certainly a player that I think a lot of playoff contending teams would want to bolster their defense and perimeter on-ball defense. Any other trade rumors that you're hearing or anything else you want to talk about in terms of fantasy and the trade, what the trade deadline implications of what that could be?
I think Portland. Recently heard reports about Yusuf Nurkic and Josh Hart, the latter going to be a free agent this summer. Yeah. Being possible trade guys. I think Drew Eubanks is someone that you should probably keep an eye on. I think he's in a similar spot to Zach Collins down in San Antonio, where you're playing a bit more, still coming off the bench, but they can get you some good value in terms of rebounds and maybe some defensive numbers in limited minutes. So I don't know if I'd rush out to add Drew Eubanks right now, but I think he's someone to keep tabs on over the next week.
Yeah, the block specialist, Drew Eubanks. I think he's registered a block in like 10 straight games, averaging 2 blocks over that span. And I think Nurkic, between his injuries and the trade rumors, certainly someone that I would definitely have on my watch list. Can add in deeper leagues if you need some blocks. But Josh Hart, I think, is a bit interesting because, I think, early on in the season, fantasy perspective, he's one of the best rebounding guards in the league. So he gives you some sneaky rebounds and also some assists. Doesn't always have those really good scoring games, but he can shoot the 3 and is competent from the free throw line. So the efficiency is there. It just kind of sucks. I don't the Portland Trailblazers, I feel like they have a roster there But now Jeremy Grant also is due for a contract. He declined his first offer. So at this point, does Portland, if they don't string together some wins here, do they look to sell Jeremy Grant because they don't want to pay him? I think there's some really interesting decisions that the Portland Trailblazers have to make here.
Yeah, I think they like Grant. He waits till the summer. He could possibly get that 5th year from Portland in an extension, which you can't do during the season. So maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, that wing position, it's kind of hard to figure out in terms of fantasy if they move either him or Hart.